out is Abubakar Nurmagomedov, and in steps the Floridian sensation. We have Preston Parsons, and this is a guy that if you didn't know, you should know, because he is an absolute submission specialist. And of his 9 wins, Matt, 9 of them are by submission. And if you look at some of the losses, in his 5 on in, he's 4-1, but his fifth to last fight, he lost to Valdir Araujo, who was 16-7 at the time and fought a decent level of competition, 23 pro fights. Preston had 6 fights. And even before that, he was 19 years old and got knocked out by Mike Perry back in 2015. I don't know what you were doing in 2015. Were you in a bar? Were you in a cage? Were you outside of the venue? Mike Perry was knocking everybody out. And he knocked out Preston Parsons. But for Parsons, it's the absolute buzzsaw that has been the last 4 fights that he has had. And they've been in quick succession over Wesley Barnes, Socrates Pierre, Wesley Golden, and Jeff Peterson. And that fight just a little over a month ago, he absolutely boxed his ears in, tired him in the first round, get into the second round, got down, had him in his guard, and then got an armbar. He is an absolute wizard on the ground. You saw that in his fight when he was 20, taking on an 18-year-old Ignacio Bahamondes, who's now also in the UFC. For Preston Parsons, are the odds stacked against him? Yeah, big time they are, but I want to give another shout out. He is the owner and head coach at Elevate MMA that he founded in 2020 in Jacksonville Beach. This guy is an entrepreneur. Kudos to opening a business during a pandemic, and hopefully it flourishes. I'm sure Jacksonville is going to be proud of Preston Parsons making his debut against one Daniel Rodriguez, who's only lost in the UFC. There are plenty who thought that he won, and maybe he should have lost his fight against Dwight Grant. And maybe he should have lost his fight against Gabe Greener. He was on his way to doing so. But Daniel Rodriguez, a very fun fighter to watch, coming out of the BMF Ranch, Matt. I like this fight. It's tricky for Preston Parsons, but it's a fight that we're going to get nonetheless.
It's really tricky for Preston Parsons. Like, let's not make any mistake about it. I know you were hyping him up because that's what we have to do. This is a very, very tough ask for Preston Parsons, because if you look at his overall body of work, he's never fought anyone who even comes close to the level of skill that Daniel Rodriguez is. It's just the truth. Like, I like some of the things I've seen out of Preston Parsons against some of the guys who he's fought, but the issue is that there was never a fight on the regional scene that I was like, wow, Preston Parsons is going to lose this fight. He went into every fight, A, not only as a favorite, but B, you could just tell that there were levels, and it didn't always feel like he was fighting just a level of competition below where he should have been. But that doesn't mean that you're ready to fight Daniel Rodriguez in the UFC. And I know as of recently, we've had a few guys, Terrence McKinney being one of them, who they show up on a week's notice and they win by this flash knockout. It's great. Willie Alves recently lost. It was a very similar situation. But other than that one flash knockout, it is really hard to beat a guy who, again, Daniel Rodriguez can give guys from that like 25 to 15 really hard fights who have just been training to fight Daniel Rodriguez for the last 2 months. And the fact that Preston Parsons is doing this on short notice is a really, really hard ask. And when you look at some of the things Parsons struggles with, he does give up defense for offense a lot, especially when he's rushing forward, throwing his own striking combinations, looking for the takedown. He does have a really good takedown, but the issue is that he does get a little wild when he is throwing his strikes on his way to the inside. And yes, his boxing is good when he stays disciplined, but the issue is that he's boxing like 18-year-old Ignacio Bahamondes. You're not boxing Daniel Rodriguez, who is a full-blown man at almost 35. And the thing about D-Rod, he's going to have fights probably be closer than they should be. He is one of those weird like 50-50 fighters where, listen, I'll speak for you as well. I like watching D-Rod fight. He doesn't have boring fights. They tend to be very exciting. But the fact that he does leave his chin very wide open when he lands his own power shots is a little bit concerning. Like, D-Rod probably has nightmares about guys like Vicente Luque at night, who can absorb your big power, keep things really clean, and counter you down the middle. But we're talking about guys like Vicente Luque giving him trouble like that. I just think for a guy like Preston Parsons, making your UFC debut, this is a good way to get your foot in the door, but it's going to be really hard to start your UFC career off with a win against a really tough out like D-Rod.
If you're playing MMA math, Daniel Rodriguez just beat Mike Perry, and 19-year-old Preston Parsons couldn't. So Daniel Rodriguez is going to win, but no, you can't look at it that way. For Parsons, though, you know how good the jiu-jitsu is. It was funny to me, too, because doing the background research for one, you go back and watch that Bahamondes fight. That one's on Fight Pass, but all of his previous 4 fights that he's had with Combat Night, and I don't understand it. I didn't have it actually in my notes, but the last one, the name of the show was just Duval. Like, did they like the movie True Grit? Did they like To Kill a Mockingbird? Are they big Robert Did they like Kicking and Screaming with Mike Ditka? Like, Duval, do better. But for Preston Parsons, really good boxing. Again, A lot of power on those shots.
I'm not going to say really good boxing. I'll say passable boxing into the clinch.
It's tidy, but a lot of power on his shots. The other thing that he has, nice elbows in the clinch. We saw that. And the thing that I've noticed watching fight over fight for Preston Parsons, a lot more kicks too. And a lot of head kicks. That's going to cause him issues against the southpaw and Daniel Rodriguez. And for Rodriguez, you're getting ready for Abubakar Nurmagomedov. Now, Abubakar looked amazing in his fight against Jared Gooden because what did he do? Well, Jared thinks that I'm going to wrestle him and take him down. I'm just going to strike with him. And he looked amazing in that one. For Rodriguez, though, I think we're a few steps ahead. We're still going to train some of that wrestling defense in order to flow with our striking. Rodriguez is a good fighter in that way. Now, like I said, short notice opponent Gabe Green gave him a really good fight.
He did.
And he has had some interesting ones. I thought that he won the Dalby fight. I was pretty surprised that way. And I joke at the start because in the Dwight Grant fight, Grant pretty much had him finished, but War Tyone let it go, and then it ends up...
No, that's not a negative for Daniel Rodriguez. We can't talk about that like it's a negative. No. The fact that he fought through that situation against a guy like Dwight Grant is an extreme positive. Like, I feel like we talk about that situation far too negatively. The fact that he was able to eat Dwight Grant's best shot and then come back and knock him out is pretty impressive.
It was insane. So we'll see what happens coming up this weekend. When I look at it for Daniel Rodriguez, he's about a minus 225 favorite or thereabouts. And if you look at it opposite him, we're not in Chris Moutinho territory, but for Preston Parsons, he's coming in about a plus 207. Open a plus 175. He's a plus 207. For Rodriguez, open a minus 225. He's actually a minus 259. If we have a look at the Tapology votes, they're a surprise to us as they are to you.
Yeah.
There are 837 total votes, 92% Rodriguez, 71% by knockout. For Parsons, the 8% that have him, 49% by submission. Again, he is a submission specialist. Go check out Elevate MMA if you're in the Jacksonville area. We'll pump his tires that way. But when I look at this fight, I've seen Parsons get hit by a lot of left-handed shots, where Rodriguez's best shot is at his left shovel hook. There's a lot of good shots that he throws from that southpaw stance. A lot of kicks, too. Could they be caught? Could he get taken down? Possibly. But I do like D-Rod in this fight for sure.
Yeah, I just think Rodriguez is much more advanced in his MMA career. And for Preston Parsons, like, this is a good way to get your foot in the door. I just think D-Rod is a little bit too much too soon.
Both of us going with Daniel Rodriguez in this one, Matt. We have an interesting main card coming up shortly, topped off at lightweight. You got Islam Makhachev taking on Thiago Moises. You're not going to want to miss that. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. And as we always say, let's get into it.